Hi, my name is Daniel Abramberg and welcome to my course, Modern Architecture. Today is the Linux Day and I am so excited about it. You see, as a Windows user, I thought Linux is weird. I was used to this nice and cozy remote desktop environment. And I expected something similar when I was connecting to my Linux server. But what did I get? A command line. It is freakishly scary. I couldn't even copy a file, let alone sitting and typing all of these weird commands. I'm not gonna remember those. And guess what? I made myself to sit and do that. And a few years later, who is teaching you Linux? The same guy. So I know you're gonna panic. I know you're gonna search for something like remote desktop, and I respect that. It's a part of the process. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to write some bash commands. So just accept it and learn it. Okay, enough with empowering speech. Let's see what we are going to learn. We are going to learn a lot. And that's why this chapter became kind of long. So I divided it to 4 sections. At this video, I'm going to show you how to make accounts on 2 of the most popular cloud computing services. It is Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. There are 3 more videos, so part 2 is gonna be most important Linux commands and some utilities. At the next one, I'm gonna show you how to install software on Debian Linux. And yes, Ubuntu is based on Debian. We are going to install Microsoft SQL Server as well as Nginx, and we are going to run a website connected to a domain like the real world. And at the last video, I'm going to show you how to host a .NET Core web service using Nginx on a Linux server. So at this video, I'm going to show you how to make a prod-ready Linux instance on AWS and Azure. And we are going to go through some settings and we are going to connect to them using SSH protocol. Okay, let's start with Amazon AWS. It's a great cloud computing service. You can pop up a Linux instance as well as some databases, so you get a production ready environment for free. So we are at the website and you can create an account here, and there is a button that says you can create a free account. So let's click on it and see what happens. So you get some easy fields to fill, but don't be fooled because they are going to ask you for the credit card number and stuff. So it's not that easy, but it's definitely worth it. I already have an account, so I just log in and show you inside. So you get an overview of all the services here, and what we are looking for is the first one under the compute, EC2. There are a lot, so if it happens that you look for something and you couldn't find it, you can always search. What we are looking for here is instances, and you get an overview of all the resources that you're running and a quick statistic about them. Let's go to Oregon. I'm sure I have no instances right there. Let's go ahead and visit instances and see how we can make an instance. There is a button to launch an instance here, so let's click on it. And here you get a list of images that you can use to create your instance from. Let's search for Ubuntu. So with Ubuntu, you always want to go with long-term support versions marked with LTS. And for a server, I always wanted to be matured at least 1 year, so I go for 1804 version. You see, there are also images for other purposes. For example, this one is for deep learning, but we want a pure Ubuntu. Let's go ahead and select it. Here you can find combinations of CPU, memory, and network performance. We are going to install SQL Server on this instance, so I am going to go for something with 2 virtual CPUs. Let's go take a look at the configs. As you see, there are some configurations here, but I'm not going to overwhelm you with that. So let's go ahead and review and launch it. It's giving you some warnings, but I want to tell you that port 22 is open by default. And that's the port that you can use to connect to your instance. So if you can connect to it, everybody else can connect to it. Make sure that you are protecting it by limiting the IP addresses that can connect to it. I'm going to show you how. But first, let's launch our instance. Here you can create or choose your key pair that is used to connect to your instance. We don't have a key pair from before, so we create one and then download the public key. I call it my key pair test and download it. And I put it in a folder called PEM on my desktop. Okay, that was the last step. Let's launch our instance. We are creating an instance of an image, so it's not like we have to install Ubuntu. So you get a summary here, and let's go to our instance and see if it's ready. It is running for sure, but it takes a little bit before it's really ready. It is initializing right now. Let's take a look at our instance panel. Here you get a good overview of your instance and some basic information. The next tab is security, and inside that there is something called security groups, and it's more or less function as a firewall. You see your port 22 I told you about? You can take care of it from here. We have inbound rules and outbound rules, and by default we can access any port from inside our network, but outside resources cannot access us. And when we are sitting at our office and working with our instances, we are also count as outside resources. So let's open some ports in our inbound. We are going to make a web server, so we should open HTTP and HTTPS. We are also going to install a SQL Server on this instance. So we have to open port 1433, but I highly recommend that you open such ports for your own IP or specific users' IPs. Same as port 22. But I'm going to delete this instance as soon as we are done, so I just open it for everyone. Okay, we go ahead and save it. And here what we have. Remember, outbounds are open for everyone. But in a real production solution, you have to take care of that too. Never expose anything that is not necessary. Let's go back to instances. There are some other tabs here: networks, storage, status check, and monitoring. Let's take a look at monitoring. Seems that it's not ready yet, so we come back to it. It takes a few minutes before status check is updated, but I think it's ready now. We can use this public IP to connect to it, or if you right click here, you get the menu and you can click on connect. And you come here. Your username by default is Ubuntu in most of AWS images. Let's go to SSH client. You see some instructions here, but if you are a Windows user, you basically can use the last line. You remember the private key we downloaded? I put it in a folder on my desktop. I'm gonna use git bash to connect to my instance. If I right click and open my git bash, my current address is going to be this folder. Then I copy paste the last line to my git bash. I just resized my git bash so you can see better. So the reason that it works like that is that our current address is the same address that I saved my key pair. So we don't need to give it a full address. Okay, let's press enter and yes in here. And we are connected. Let's take a look at what we have here. An overview of our instance. Things like how much space is left and how much memory we use and what is our IP address inside the network. Look, if you feel that is kind of an unknown territory for you, that is okay. That's why we are doing these tutorials. Okay, I promised to show you monitoring again when we have some data. So let's go back there and take a look. So we are back on the EC2 page on the AWS, and we are looking at monitoring tab. Here you can choose the length of the data and sampling frequency. The most important things to have an eye on are CPU utilization, as well as CPU credit usage and CPU credit balance. In AWS, it is designed that you have a CPU credit balance. And if your instance is using too much CPU, then your instance is going to run out of the credit balance. And then your instance is going to run very slowly until you use less CPU and your balance is refilled. Just beware of that, so you can't just run 100% CPU all the time. Another thing I want to show you here is volumes. Volume is a fancy term for storage. And you have some monitoring for your storage here too. And you have the same deal here too. So your I/O shouldn't be more than something, otherwise your volume is not going to respond correctly. One more thing, instead of backing up the files on your storage, you can make a snapshot of your volume. It is also a good thing to know. Another cloud-based computing service is Microsoft Azure, and it is especially popular between companies that build their platforms on .NET. So let's get to it. Here also you can get a free account for a year. You also get $200 to try different Azure things within 30 days. I go ahead and sign in with my account and I show you inside. It's kind of personalized, so I guess it might be slightly different for you. But if you find the plus symbol with the text create a resource, you're gonna end up somewhere like this. It also has a search function, but what we are looking for is right here, so we don't need to search. But if you want your instance based on another image, just go ahead and search. Let's go through some of these fields. Subscription is basically how you are going to pay for your resource group. And resource group is a way to put all these services that are related to each other in the same group. Well, region, you should select something that is near to your users. And you see the price based on the size. Here also you have the chance to choose between key pairs and password. In AWS, we did it with public key, so let's make a password here. Yes, thank you to that. And I just put some random nonsense here as password. And the last line states that expose port 22 publicly. And as I said before, you shouldn't do that. You should only expose that to the people who need to log into this server. I'm going to show you how when we are exploring the portal. Here you have the option to choose the disk you want, and when it comes to disk, I always take the best one if it's not a backup disk. You can continue to go through all the details, but let's review and generate. It takes a while before all the resources are generated, and you're going to get a message about that. So you can go ahead and click on that button and go to the resource. So here's your instance, and that is your public IP, and you get details information right here. Let's grab our public IP and try to connect to this instance. Let's clean up. And the same as before, although we don't have a public key, so we don't need to provide that option. Oh, here we created another user. Let's try that. What was my password? Fear not as I walk you through safely. Actually, there is some function in Azure Portal that you can reset your password for your instance. Let's try that. This time we're not going to enter some nonsense password. And let's try it. Yes, it works. Okay, let's spend a couple of minutes in Azure portals so we get oriented. For each instance, you have the essential information here: public IP address and subscription. Then you have some more information under properties like virtual machine, networking, and size. The next tab is monitoring, and you have CPU, network, and disk, and those are the most essential things to consider. Then under the setting, you have connection that you can go and pick up your SSH connection command. You find then activity log here. Remember that port 22? Now it's time to find out how to manage it. You want to go to resource group, and from there find network security group. Here you go. You click on a row for a security rule to edit it, or under the setting you find inbound security rules and outbound security rules. You click on them and define a new one. And make sure you are not exposing anything that is not needed. Okay, awesome. We did part 1 of 4. The reason I started from here was that as a modern architect, you're expected to work in cloud-based environments. And these are 2 of the most popular ones. Also, I wanted to make sure that everybody accesses some kind of Linux server so you can follow along and do the same things that I'm doing in next chapters. Remember, you can't just watch me doing commands and expect to learn. You really need to do it yourself. So go ahead and make an account in one of these or any similar ones and pop up a Linux instance. As always, thank you for watching, and I'm happy that you're watching and following. But for the sake of others to find the same material, if you feel generous today, please like and subscribe so other people can find the video too. 1 done, 3 to go. Let's see you at the next part: commands, utilities, user groups, and permissions.